Hello from Netherlands. Today is the 13th of January, 2026. I'm still in Catherine Austin Fitz's studio in Netherlands. Misako is actually studying in the next room. She took me for a haircut today. That's why I appear so attractive. There's a lot of important things to talk about, but I'm going to keep it quick. One is, this is only the second time I've said this out loud. The first time was like 30 minutes ago on with Brandon Weichert on a live podcast. What I think is going on with Greenland actually is not really directly related with Greenland as much as it is with Panama Canal and Danish Strait and other important matters that are far beyond Greenland. Now, Greenland is in a strategic location. We all get that. There are minerals under there and whatnot that people would like. They might be difficult to get to. I'm not sure that's what this is all about. You got to keep in mind, one thing I've talked about many times is the huge interest that Denmark actually has in Panama Canal, right? And it's big. I mean, Maersk owns the Panama Railway company, which has that. I mean, arguably the most important railway in the world that goes between the Pacific port and the Atlantic port. Misako and I actually got on that train. I mean, they allowed us to ride in the engineer. Misako was on top of the train and actually did put a time lapse going all the way across the canal zone or all the way across Panama. It's a transcontinental railroad about 50 miles long, transcontinental, but it is transcontinental. And so she had made a time lapse going from the Pacific to the Atlantic side and then back, actually, which we have. I could publish that. And all kinds of other things. They actually let us into the engineer, and they let Misako climb up on top of the train and strap the camera on. You can't make up this stuff. Only Misako. And they let Misako actually open one of the canal gates on the Atlantic side. It was amazing. It got in the Panamanian news. But anyway, that was on a different trip. What I'm getting to is Denmark is an important country. Small, but as people often say, punches above its weight class, like here in Netherlands, right? Another small country punches above its weight class. Denmark. Let's talk about Denmark. Greenland is part of Denmark, and Greenland obviously has strategic location, as does Iceland. However, the body of Greenland has extremely important location. It's right there at the Danish Strait. Remember, on those top 7 maritime choke points in the world, Panama Canal is the number one most important for the United States. For much of Asia and let's say much of a certain part of the world, the Suez Canal is the most important. The Suez Canal is important for everybody, but it's more important for some than others, naturally. And same with Bab el-Mandeb, likewise with Strait of Hormuz and Strait of Malacca, and of course going around the bottom of Africa, and now the Chinese have serious influence on the bottom of South America. But in any case, Danish Straits and the Turkish Straits as well. But the Danish Straits, if you want to choke Russia, you want to choke those Danish Straits, right? Misako and I successfully predicted Groningen as well, but that Nord Stream would be disrupted. We were very public about this. We even went to Germany several times. And a couple times we went to BASF plant because we thought that Nord Stream would get cut. This was a way to hasten the demise of Europe and also Russia. Russia is greatly under attack, right? And by the same parties who were attacking China, actually, and the United States, and other parts of Asia and Europe, same parties. The Zionist Party, which is let's say the Zionist constellation, of which Trump is a member. Trump is their current brightest star, right? And when he's gone, there'll be somebody else. But the Zionist constellation is one of the main power groups at war, right? And they're clearly getting everybody to fight everybody and diminishing everyone, right? And so if you want to take out Russia and Europe at the same time and diminish the United States, go ahead, poke a fight with Denmark, because I haven't heard anybody say this publicly, by the way, not a single person, what I'm telling you now. And I've only said it publicly, like I said, the first time about 30 minutes ago. I've just been cogitating over it, studying it. Misako and I have looked at it down in Panama long before this Greenland thing looked up, you've seen me talk about Maersk before. I've published so many photos of Maersk down in Panama. But if you want to really, you want to economize your motion and your resources when you're at war, obviously, or in business, which are the same things on some level. And so going for Denmark allows you, not Greenland too, but the real target would be Denmark, right? The body of Denmark, because look where it's at on the map, the Danish Strait. And Denmark has massive international shipping interest all over the place, including Panama. I think they do about 35% of the import exports from Panama. They got big bucks, right? They own the Panama Railway Company, right? That's a big deal. That for those who know how Panama Canal works, you know how big of a deal that is. That's a massive deal. That's that big, right? That's between those two ports in the Panama Canal. There's multiple ports in the canal, but there's one on the Pacific and one on the Atlantic side run by the Chinese. Those ports are connected by the railway. So those ports are like a drop box. They're like a post office almost. You can come in with a container ship, drop off a bunch of containers and pick up a bunch of containers, and actually that ship doesn't transit the canal. It just stops in there like going into a mail office and cross-loads packages or containers and keeps on its route. So it's doing a route, right? And likewise on the Atlantic side doing the same thing. So a lot of ships don't have to pass through the Panama Canal because they go on that railway, which is, that opened in, when did that open? 1857? I'm sorry, I've forgotten. It was back then. It used to cost in 1860, I think 1855. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact date, but I know in 1867, it cost 5 ounces of gold. The equivalent of, it cost $100, which is about 4 or 5 ounces, say 4.5 ounces of gold to go through the Panama Canal. Can you imagine? Because gold has, it was very expensive. It was an ounce. It was the equivalent of an ounce of gold for a person to take that railway. And it's not exactly the same railway because when they made the canal, the original railway was, it's underwater. Parts of it are. So they built another one that's pretty much parallel to the way the other one was. And so that's the one. There was a time when that was the most lucrative railway in the world, actually. And now it's one of the most important in the world that nobody seems to know about. And Masago got up on the top of the train and did a time lapse going all the way across the canal zone. And so we've been watching this for a while. We've been watching Denmark, so when you can imagine how it looks differently to us than it looks to a lot of people because we look at these things in such detail. And I think this is my intuitive sense. A lot of it's deductive, but at the end of the day, it's an intuitive leap. The intuitive leap is that we're going for Denmark. Either pressuring Denmark, like basically gun to their head, like, we'll take Greenland and you'll do what we want, and in Panama and other places, because BlackRock wants interest in there as well. But Maersk has that interest. Denmark has a lot of interest in Panama, not just Maersk in the railway, but others as well. It's extensive, and they're a big player in global shipping, right? So this is a much bigger deal than Greenland. I haven't heard anybody say this at all, not a single person. Maybe if there is somebody else saying it, please tell me. But this is just the stuff that we notice on the ground, and I should leave it at that. I took a couple of notes to mention. I think that's about it. But yeah, the Danish are controlling about, I believe, about 35%. The numbers are fuzzy, but about 35% of the imports and exports that go through the canal, it's going through Danish companies' hands, right? That's huge. And again, then there's the Danish Strait, which is one of the major chokeholds in the world, and they have interest in other places all over the world. So this is a big battle, right? It's a battle of titans. It's a battle. If you want to strangle Russia, I would take Denmark. I'm not saying I want to. I don't want to see this happen. That would be a direct attack, obviously, on a NATO member, and it would have far-reaching consequences, like incredible, right? Americans who have businesses overseas or business interest overseas, which is a lot, huge amounts watching this, either live overseas, have family overseas, or have rely on business trade overseas. There's no island in this world, and there hasn't been for hundreds of years, right? The idea that we could live in isolation has always been a fairy tale, and it never happened at all, period, at all, right? We've always been part of the larger global community in shipping and trade and whatnot, right? And so, and now is no different, other than it's bigger and we rely more on outside. Like, we're going into food problems, right? The United States is clearly eventually going into food problems. I've been warning about this since 2020. It's clearly the conditions are building. I think they're going to continue to build in 2026 due to some farming and other issues. Not to go into that, but at the end of the day, Denmark is a global player, and the Greenland is, I think, sort of a, Americans get all riled up. Let's go for Greenland. And you might take it, but at the end of the day, it's really about Denmark. It's about Panama. It's about the Danish Strait. It's about Strait of Malacca, Suez. It's about Israel recognizing Somaliland, which is really about the Red Sea, obviously, and the Bab el-Mandeb, Suez Canal, building the Ben Gurion Canal, all these sorts of things, right? That's enough. Masako and I hugely appreciate any financial support. We greatly need it. This is very expensive. We don't have a multi-million-dollar budget. We don't have much of a budget at all. Look at what we do. I mean, have you seen anybody tell you in advance about Nord Stream or Groningen? Some were talking about Groningen, or the screwworms, or the Darien Gap could end up being a main invasion route. Many, many other things, right, that we've been, and I want to be crystal clear. This is far from over with Denmark, and it's not all related, if related at all, to Greenland. It's like related to Panama Canal. It's related to the Danish Strait. It's related to other things around the world where Maersk and other, significant global players have interest. And so we need support, though. We need financial support. Masako and I, and for those who can't afford it, I completely understand. No problem. This is still going to be free. Please, those who can afford it, helping hand to those who can't. Those who can't, please just share it out, share it everywhere. Share it to everybody you can, and that's a huge help to everybody, right? Again, there's people living in Panama that probably have no idea. They're watching Maersk containers go by all day long, and they probably haven't. Look at those trains going across that railway. It's just like Maersk. I got so many videos and photos. I watch them. I've seen so many train trips back and forth, because I stayed at that Holiday Inn often right next to the Panama Canal at the Ciudad del Saber. Those trains coming and going, Maersk. This is like thousands of containers. And if you get up on Ancon Hill, if you're in Balboa, Panama City, you can look down in that Hutchison-Whampoa port that the Chinese run. Look at all those containers, all those Maersk and other containers. Gosh, how many are there? It looks like tens of thousands. I mean, it's not like thousands. It's a lot more than a few thousand. And they get, they go back and forth on that train run by the Danish. So, there's a lot more going on than Trump putting his finger, in their chest about Greenland. It's about other stuff. I would not doubt to see something happen with Denmark. But let's see. But thank you for your support. We take Zelle, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, GiveSendGo. Subscribe to Substack, please. Again, you can subscribe for free, but if you can pay, please do. And you can gift Substack to people as well. Like you can send a gift subscription, which quite a few people have done. And then I ended up with readers over time who got gifts, and they'd never heard of my work or Masako's work before, and suddenly they found it very important and valuable. And what I just told you right there, that's 24 karat gold. That's 24 karat gold to people that want a better idea of what's going on because it can affect their life. And also for people that are thinking about doing something financial or where to put their chips, where to move around and that sort of thing, knowing that these energy sources are out there, for instance, that Panama and Denmark are tightly related, and the Danish Strait is incredibly important to Russia and Germany and others, right? So in Finland and everybody else who goes through the Danish Strait, Norway, Sweden, Germany, Poland, everybody who uses that strait, is very important to them. So keep that in mind. There's a lot more going on than meets the eye, and it's big stuff, really multi-trillion-dollar stuff. World War III. Thank you for your support.